The following podcast is improvised satire and all characters are fictional.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dean Ardenfell. This is the podcast where I interview employees of the many subsidiaries of my favorite multinational conglomerate, Hogswood Cooper Media. Welcome to the corporation. My first guest is a genuine action movie star. He plays the hero in this year's smash hit film, What About the Children?, bankrolled by HCM's DreamSearch Pictures. It's based on the true story of Bill Tallard, who's personally saved over 3,000 babies from the shadowy cabal that is draining the blood of kidnapped children in order to harvest I almost made it. In order to harvest adrenochrome. When he's not acting in major motion pictures, he enjoys paint by numbers. Please welcome Grimm Woods.
Hey, Dean. Thanks a lot for having me.
Wow.
Great to be here.
A genuine movie star here in the studio.
Well, I mean, again, that is really just the vehicle for my real passion. But no, it is great to be here. I'm a big fan.
I mean, what a role. This has got to be the role of a lifetime. You're playing a real life guy who's a real life hero, an anti-trafficking hero.
Well, yeah, and his beliefs fall very much in line with mine.
Isn't that great when it happens that way?
Yeah, it feels like we finally found a way to kind of do a fictionalized documentary. And that is I feel blessed to be in that position.
Sure.
And again, I mean, this is the role, and this is the sort of stuff where not everybody can pull this sort of stuff off. So I recognize that I'm very, very lucky to have this weight on my shoulders and be able to atlas it the way that I do.
Wow. I've never heard atlas used as a verb before. That's interesting.
I'm doing that a lot.
Are you?
There's a lot of lanes I'm carving out.
Sure.
I'm doing a lot of Greek god, sort of verbing, Midasing.
Oh, wow. Midasing.
Zeusing for when I tase people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I'm tase people, again, to sort of to show really you need to be very ready to be defensive against what we're up against.
That's true.
So,
you definitely have you have sort of almost like a method way of doing things where did you follow this Bill guy around when he was like going to these crazy countries and saving children?
Oh, absolutely.
To sort of model your
first of all, I
performance?
mean, the second I heard about Bill, I thought, what a great guy to play. And then, and I saw him, and he wasn't an attractive man. So I thought I was thinking, how much do we want to fiction? Can I even play him?
Yeah, right.
Because he's nowhere near the charisma scale that I am at.
Sure, yeah.
But then as I got to know Bill, I thought, this story is important. So I followed him. Trying to break up some of these rings and trying to, get on the trail of some of this stuff. And then I also followed him without his knowledge for about, 2 to 3 weeks after to make sure that he wasn't part of it. Because a lot of times you can see, this all goes so deep that sometimes you don't know who's a psyop, who isn't a psyop.
Wow. Very smart.
But he was the real deal.
He's the real deal.
He was the real deal.
So even though recently he was, ejected from his own operation, they sort of kicked him out. It was Operation White Savior was the company, and it turned out that he was pulling in all this money that was supposed to be used for trafficking, and then he was doing other things with it, and then they knocked him out of the organization. So what happens when something like that happens and they're trying to besmirch the name of the hero you're trying to play? Does that affect you?
Just remember that every hero you have, once they start to fight against the machine, they are going to try to take them down. I mean, I'm expecting a lot of that with me.
Sure.
As I sort of step more and more into the spotlight of the hero, of the real hero. Yeah. People are probably going to drum up a bunch of stuff about me that isn't true.
Sure.
The fact that I've in my 20s I used to sell lemon cars to people.
Oh, really?
Well, no, not really. But this is just some of the stuff that I'm preparing for it to come out. Then in my 30s I was a womanizer who did have a history of abuse. Not grounded in reality. Pure fiction. I
mean, you're coming up with these examples very quickly.
Well, I'm just saying this is when I self-dossier, which I do a lot. It seems
another verb I hadn't heard before.
Well, I'm at the point now where I'm trailing myself because nobody can get behind me in the way that I can.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of self-trailing. I'm sort of self-delving, and and there's a lot of that stuff: hard drug use, abuse of power, rage issues.
Oh, wow.
Threw a grip out a window because he was taking so long to light. Again, it's not the hardest fucking job in the world. I mean, it's really just get the light on me when I'm ready to go.
Right.
But I would have said in this fictionalized,
fictionalized world, isn't there a recording? It's probably been created by.
But again, I mean that they can do
deep
so much.
Fakes
Absolutely,
and you're screaming at the crew.
They can do so much now.
Right,
you know, I've even heard audio of Obama saying he loves kids and he wants to help them.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's how deep these fakes can go when you know that he drinks the blood and so does Hillary.
Right.
So you know, you've got to be very careful with how you source things. And,
Sure.
And that has been a focus. And Bill, I stand by Bill.
Yeah.
I stand by Bill like David Miscavige stands by L. Ron. I
Yeah,
mean, you know the good guys. You know when they're there for the right reasons.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And
it doesn't matter.
Take him down.
I mean, all you have to do is look at a Barack Obama and realize, like, nobody who doesn't drink the blood of children, or at least the adrenochrome in the children's blood, looks that good at that age.
Absolutely
right?
not. Yeah. I mean, I actually know for a fact that he grays his hair to make it look like he is aging.
Smart.
But that's something they can take off at any time. You know, he's clearly drinking the blood.
Yeah. And who is going to save these children if not for like one man with? I mean, and the movie is fantastic. You're fantastic in it. You've got machine guns, and you're going into these places all by yourself, killing all these people.
Yeah.
And then the child runs up to you and gives you her teddy bear. There's a really tender moment, and that's got to be like. That's all based in what really happened, right?
Well, I forget I'm filming a lot of times.
Oh yeah,
I mean, absolutely. There's a lot. There's a lot of times where I mean, unless the grips are dragging their fucking feet again, there's a lot of times where I don't even know that we're filming. You know,
sure.
Even if we do take after take, I just sort of say to myself, "Oh, this is happening again," and that's really the roles that I enjoy. You know, I box office success. Yeah, I've had it. Recognition from my peers, I've had that. But at the end of the day, those people don't matter anything to me. What matters is that little Julia has given me the teddy bear 10 times, could be 5 times if the crew would just get their shit together instead of kind of sitting there, talking, going on smoke breaks and, allowing people to knock into C-stands and that sort of shit. But
Sure.
but 5-10 times doesn't get old for me.
No.
What gets old for me is this union bullshit. But what doesn't get old for me is I could play that. I could be handed a teddy bear by that girl over and over again.
I mean, as we speak, the SAG-AFTRA is on strike, but
Right,
I know that you are a non-union. You're probably one of the most famous non-union actors. People are calling you a scab and all this, but
well, you can't. First of all, scab is it's one of the. I've been called a lot of things.
I bet.
A scab, an alcoholic. A guy who has a history of. Riddled with abuse of partners, of people that I run into. The guy bagging my grocery, I mean, seriously, just use as many bags as you want. The whole thing about the plastic bags in the ocean, that's obviously completely made up. But but the point being that I am not a union actor because stories like this cannot wait for people to negotiate their contracts. I encourage people to AI me into other scenarios like this. That's why I've done a lot of I've done a lot of stuff with green screens on my own, saying, if you want to put me in these stories, biblical or just these human tales like the ones I've been doing and like this one. Have at it.
Sure.
I don't give a shit. As long as whoever's lighting it is not just a total idiot. I mean, it really is. These lights are designed to get them up, get them moving, and let's start shooting. We don't need your life story.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Right.
The life that is interesting here is mine, not yours, Biff, or whatever the fuck this guy's name. Eat a sandwich when you get home.
They're not making a movie about him.
Absolutely. No, but he thinks he is.
Sure.
Man, turn the light on yourself if you're so goddamn important.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
This movie has been accused of something called astroturfing, which is when the studio just buys up a whole bunch of tickets to theaters, and the theaters remain empty, but it looks as though the movie's really doing well.
Yep.
What was your response to that?
Well, I mean, I'm not astroturfing. No, nobody's astroturfing. Look. These movies are doing numbers that no movie's ever done before.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the numbers and you don't see that, you're buying into the BS. That's the propaganda.
Right.
But these movies are doing numbers that are unbelievable. Even if people aren't physically in the theater, they are
part of the
watching
movement.
They are watching this.
Sure.
They viewed this movie. I don't get political, but it's a lot of what happens with the mail-in voting. These people are. They do that with that you're accused of dead people seeing the movie. You know, these voter rolls. I mean,
so you think like when you're going up against a big movie, an Indiana Jones
10,
or a Fast and Furious, that they're the ones miscounting all their
without question.
Yeah, sure.
And this movie is filled with real viewers because again, this is a story that is so important, and people recognize that this is real. This is really happening.
And you must. Do you have kids of your own?
I have 2 kids, but I don't have a relationship with them because their mother is a psychopath.
Okay.
I mean, she just believes anything she's one of these CNN people.
Oh,
She believes anything she reads, and unfortunately, I've had to sacrifice my relationship with these 2 kids because I just cannot tolerate her.
Sometimes you got to walk away from those toxic relationships.
Yeah, and I've also there are a few mothers who have said that I am the father of their children, and when they ask for a blood test, I reject it because again, the adrenochrome. I know where this is headed. They're trying to get my adrenochrome. They're going to take it. So I will not have blood work done.
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm a big potion guy. I do not do antibiotics. I do not do injections. I do potions. I do a lot of home potions. Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
What are some of the ingredients that you're working with at home?
You got goat hair. You got squirrel brain.
Wow.
Sometimes just a lot of hair. Honestly, it's a lot of hair from animals. They're hair tonics, but they're not tonics for your hair. They're tonics made of hair.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't mind saying I drink a lot of my own hair.
Okay.
The main reason why I get a haircut is to kind of put it back in the system. You hear a lot of that when people are drinking their own urine. People are saying that doesn't make any sense. Well, what you're not understanding is that is your body processing and getting rid of the most important parts. And the same thing with most of your follicles. If you're drinking your nails, eating your skin, drinking your hair, this is a good way to kind of self-preserve. And I actually have had the blood of children.
Oh, really?
Absolutely, yeah. Wow. But it's not for the same reasons.
Okay.
And I need to be amped up to save the kids.
Okay.
So it's kind of a smaller sacrifice. If you got to, drain 2 children of blood. Now, drain is not the right verb. If you drain 2 kids of blood, but I save 30,000, well, I'm sorry. I'm going to break some eggs to make a savior omelet.
I see. So that's sort of you playing the long game there, where you're like, you don't want the liberals to drain 10,000 kids of their blood to stay young, but you'll drain a couple of kids to have the strength.
Stop them draining the 10,000.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And it does seem like you're
and eat their hair.
Right. It seems like you're sort of conflating yourself and Bill at this point, like almost seeing yourself as...
The lines are blurred.
Because you're not going in actually saving these children yourself, are you?
Well, I guess it would... Well, first of all, yes, I am.
Oh.
And second of all, I guess it would depend on how you define saving. If you make a movie like this and you're spreading the word, you really are kicking the door open.
Right.
And then if you do that, you got a lifelong fan. And anyone, and my agent, who's not, is not a typical Hollywood agent, will tell you that the longevity of that... that is almost more important than the children to them, not to me.
Right.
To me, it's saving the kids. But yeah, if this person will come see, I'm still looking to do romantic comedies from time to time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been dinged by this whole press tour and by dinged by the movie,
yeah.
but I'm not above a one fine day. Or
Hollywood's all controlled by the liberal elite.
Yep. Which is why I have to go the route of making my own things, and a lot of times that results in a crew that's just not focused, or a grip who's maybe got his head in the clouds or whatever. Yeah. And if they go out a window, I mean that sends a message that resonates, and that's really what this movie does. Yeah, it is sacrificing 1 to 2 children to make a 30,000, save 30,000. Yeah. I mean, you take that any day. And same with throwing a grip out a window.
Sure. And how did you meet your current agent? If he's not in the Hollywood system, how did you meet him?
He's I'll be honest. It's Bill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Bill
Man, that guy can wear any hat, can't he?
He's unbelievable. Wow. There's nobody has more hats.
I mean, I guess he's no longer doing the job of saving the children since he was ejected from his own organization, or at least not.
Not with them.
No, okay.
No, but of course
as a rogue,
anybody can throw you out of anything. It doesn't mean you stop the mission. I mean, I was thrown out of SAG years ago. I'm still acting.
Oh, you were thrown out?
Yeah, they threw me out of AA. I'm still drinking.
So I'm assuming your agent came to you one day and said, "I'd like you to play me." Was that the
Bill,
the role on the table?
Bill told me, I have the role of a lifetime for you. Wow. And I was a huge fan of Bill. Sure. I mean, we'd vacation together a little bit, and obviously I'd followed him, and I'd followed him with his knowledge and without his knowledge.
Even before you got the role?
Even before. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Wow. And he said, how would you like to get inside? And then he pointed to his own body. And I thought, this is taking a turn. And then he explained he wanted me to play him.
Okay.
And I said, great. I said, if we can get a crew that is not, a bunch of, pardon my, lazy fuckers.
Yeah.
I said, we can make this happen. Now,
Yeah.
the crew part, these guys, were, they were focused on their own thing. They demand food every 6 hours and sort of. But Bill and I still stayed the course, stayed focused, and.
But when he said you want to get inside me, you must have been like, whoa,
Well, I mean, look, I'm a huge believer in freedom, just non-sexual.
I see.
Every other version of freedom, as long as it's not making me uncomfortable, I'm okay with.
Right. If he had said, get inside me, like I want to take some of your blood and put it in me, you would have been fine with that.
We've blood swapped.
You have?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. You got to swish it around betwixt each other. That's how you become, one, which is really the goal.
Yeah.
Synergy on that level.
I did hear they did get in a little bit of trouble with the Operation White Savior charity, where apparently Bill did require everyone who worked for the charity to swap blood with one another, and that involved a lot of diseases swapping back and forth. And
quote unquote diseases. I mean, you're 2 hair tonics away from being completely immune to anything.
Yeah, right.
I haven't been sick except for when I was on a respirator for COVID. I have not been sick in a decade or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do need to move on to my second guest here. I hope you'll stick around and I'll bring you back.
I'm gonna be on the BlackBerry outside while you do this.
Oh, wow. Still on the BlackBerry, huh?
Yeah. Go see the movie too, everyone.
Oh yeah, go see the movie. What About the Children? Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we'll have you come back in a second here. Well.
All right, I'll be outside.
Well, folks, my second guest today wants you to wake up and smell the coffee. Literally. We'll find out what that means. But first, let's pause and hear a quick word from our sponsor. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back. I'd like to remind you at this point, as I do every show, that I, Dean Ardenfell, am not and have never been an employee of Hogswood Cooper Media or any of its subsidiaries. Okay, we've been talking to Grimm Woods, star of the film What About the Children, and now I'd like to bring in my second guest, who works for a totally different subsidiary of Hogswood Cooper. He is the inventor of BurnBrew, the revolutionary single-use personal coffee system that has been called by some the most convenient and by others the most environmentally destructive way to make a cup of coffee. The patented BurnBrew system disposes of its plastic cups by incinerating them directly inside the machine. On weekends, he ziplines in his backyard. Please welcome Pat Pudsworth. Hi, Pat.
Hi. Hello.
Oh,
Thank
my
you so
goodness.
much.
Wow.
Such an honor to be here. I saw Grimm outside. Big fan of his.
Big fan. I mean, we're all starstruck here. He's got bodyguards. The whole thing is, it's really exciting.
Just not many people notice this kind of thing, but his scent is lingering in the room. And it's really,
so?
it feel like
Yeah, it's like a musk.
It's nice.
It makes you feel almost more like it's like there's testosterone in the air. I feel like more manly now.
I have incredibly finely tuned senses. I sniff almost every bean that goes into one of our cups of BurnBrew. I have personally gotten my nose on.
So you're a real coffee connoisseur.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so to take you back, I got kind of a Cliff Notes. BurnBrew started with an idea that if we could somehow, that for most people, the transition from unconsciousness to consciousness is the worst part of the day.
Wow.
We started with a simple kind of catchphrase around the office, which was life, the nightmare you wake up into. How could we disrupt that process? How could we get in there and kind of jam that wedge into?
Oh, this whole this is not one big run-on sentence.
No.
The motto is the first part, not the whole part, the whole sentence.
It depends. It depends on how far into I get it before. It's usually just until someone cuts
life,
me off.
the nightmare you wake up into is what
yes,
I. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's always part of it. But then there's another part until somebody asks, "Is this still part of it?" And
okay. All right.
It always kind of is.
It's like pie. It keeps going as long as someone doesn't stop.
But it's not constant. Yeah. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly right. And so for me, BurnBrew started. I thought I had this genius idea. I said, "What if people complain about these cups in the single-use cups?
Sure.
But what if we could use the power of the combustion of that cup to heat the next cup of coffee and thereby create this kind of continuous, unending cycle, coffee Ouroboros, eating its own ass?" And we got some of the finest guys in, and they all said, "You can't do that." And but by that point, I had gotten used to not unloading the cups, and I said, "Well, I'm simply not going to take them out. Can we just have them burn up anyway?" And they said, "I guess."
Okay.
And the only real risk we as a company run is that one day I may be cloned by a future court and brought back to face charges for some of the lasting damage.
Okay.
But not in this lifetime.
I see.
And as far as I'm concerned, this is sort of a, I guess, more metaphysical approach to it. That's not me. The clone of me that would stand trial is not me.
There are a lot of I didn't expect to go so deeply philosophical so early.
Well,
but what you're saying is put my clone on trial.
Yeah,
that's not me.
put as many of my clones on trial as you'd like.
Sure.
I mean, we've run these scenarios, and we can have a whole jury of my own clones trying an army of my clones for war crimes, and I will still be dead and unaware that it's happening.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which is beautiful.
These are questions that I never expected your lawyer would have to answer. You know, what happens if there's a clone army?
A lot of my lawyers refuse to and have quit.
You have a lot of people tell you that's not possible, you shouldn't do that, and then you get rid of them and bring in somebody who can tell you that it's possible.
You'll find for every person who says that's not possible, there's several other people who say that's not possible, and then there's one guy who's probably been discredited, but that's because he's willing to say that is possible, and that's the guy you get, and that's the guy who makes it possible.
Okay, cool. So that, I guess it answers a lot of questions, because I did try this machine out, and it is incredible how the burning of one cup does heat the next. Now, it does release a fairly noxious smoke into the air, so I had to take it out in my yard and make the coffee there. What is your response to those? You know,
well, technically, you're not allowed to use. You're not allowed to use it outdoors. I am legally required.
Outdoors, you're not allowed to use it.
No.
So I have to burn this toxic fume in my own house every time I make a cup of coffee.
Technically.
Legally, I do.
Legally, yeah.
Okay.
But again, you'll find a guy who says, go ahead, do it in the backyard. No one's going to notice. But in this case, I can't be that guy. I've been told by... I've yet to find a lawyer who says I can say that you can use it outdoors, but
I mean, it's like anything,
it
right?
Works great outdoors.
You have brush in your backyard. You're not allowed to burn it. You burn it anyway. Nobody really cares. You have a massage tool that you want to use as a sex toy. You use it that way. They don't advertise it that way, right? This is like it's like those things. It's like under the radar. You're saying.
I love an illicit massage toy. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the backyard. Okay, so you mentioned it in the intro. I've got this zip line set up, and people are like, "Oh, zip line's childish, right?" No, it's actually in my backyard. I have a whole pack of these birds called cassowaries, and they're 6 foot tall. They're like dinosaurs. They're the most dangerous birds on the planet, but they're beautiful. And so when I was traveling the world looking for the cheapest, most available coffee, I discovered this bird and I fell in love, and I said, we got to get this back. And everyone said they're not allowed, and they're dangerous. They'll kick you to death. Wow. And they haven't yet. They have kicked several gardeners to death, but I've warned them to stay away from the birds.
They never listen.
But then when I zip over top of them, what a thrill.
What a thrill.
What a thrill.
And I mean, if the cost is the lives of a few gardeners.
Well, it's not.
Sometimes they don't even speak English. Maybe they didn't understand your warnings anyway.
I've never spoken directly to any of the staff. No, okay. But.
So this zip line, you only brought these prehistoric animals in to give yourself a thrill to zip over in your backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have done anything. Could have done some kind of like a pond or a pool.
I used to have a monitor lizard.
Monitor lizard?
Yeah, which are also very dangerous.
Okay.
But
is that like a dragon, like a Komodo dragon?
It's like a Komodo dragon. Yeah. They've got incredibly filthy mouths, just riddled with bacteria. So if they bite you, you are going to lose that limb. But they're not quick enough. They don't act quick. And a bunch of the gardeners got together and kicked it to death.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that broke my heart because I loved that lizard.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any sort of emotional feelings about the gardeners.
You have to kind of understand why the gardeners might band together and do that if they've already lost a few of their own to these birds you brought in.
This was pre-birds.
Oh, it was?
They had lost some feet to the lizard.
Okay.
And, the lizard was doing
It's hard to kick something to death if you don't have feet.
Well, that's and you'd think, right? But it's sort of like a pogo action. It's about that downward.
I see.
You just need one to land right in the middle of the lizard, as it turns out.
Well, I mean, I didn't think when I asked you about coffee that we would end up here in the discussion. But circling back to the coffee, you do say that you are finding the cheapest coffee on the planet, and that there's another thing you've been criticized for, that this is not fair trade coffee. You're going to the places where people are getting pennies on the dollar for their labor, and
life's not fair. So life's coffee shouldn't be fair.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a
so
dream.
When you wake up to the nightmare that is life every day, you should have a coffee that matches.
If you want to keep dreaming, go for your fair coffee, okay? Because you're still asleep. The hard, cold reality of every morning is that life is a battle. It is one person or animal kicking another to death at every moment.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people are like, you're not going to get as good a flavor from the coffee. Most of our flavor comes from the plastic that's burning.
I see.
With the coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's sort of smoking it.
Kind of, it makes sense. BurnBrew, the name kind of makes sense that way.
Yes, yes. And people, at first, they go, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
But then it reprograms your mouth. It disrupts your taste buds. Wow. And you start to almost not be able to taste anything but the BurnBrew.
Sure.
And so it becomes this nice, like you get into a groove and you're like, well, that's
the only coffee
thing that's
anyway.
registering.
No kid who drinks coffee likes it until they develop a taste for it. So the same thing with burned plastic coffee.
It's like the adult drink. You know, it's
amazing.
Yeah. You think it's not great at first. And also, I just want to address, a lot of people complain about the single-use nature. It's actually not single-use plastic. We're not allowed to that's another one of those rules that the team insists I make clear. It's actually fractional use plastic. We have to have several layers in the cup because it is not strong enough to hold up for the whole process.
Gotcha. So this is, rather than single use, it's more like every time we burn it, we burn another layer.
There's like it's like a third of a use.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's not going to a landfill. It's being completely vaporized over the course of
it's in the atmosphere.
Into the atmosphere.
It's all around us, like stardust.
It's in my apartment still.
You're breathing it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I want to bring my first guest back in and see if he maybe has some ideas. Especially, I was thinking you were saying these monitor lizards with all this bacteria. Is there a tincture or some kind of potion that might help out? I don't know. Someone gets bit by a monitor lizard.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's great to be here. I love BurnBrew.
Oh,
I've had a lot of BurnBrew.
Are you looking for a celebrity sponsor?
Well,
let's not jump. I just cannot shoot any more things.
Okay, all right. You're just straight
unless
out.
unless I can vet the crew on a commercial.
Sure, and I can reach out to your agent,
Bill.
Yeah.
If you can find him, he's sort of gone dark.
No,
I think,
absolutely,
recently.
in a great way. But
Yeah.
the first thing that pops into my head is obviously beans combined with hair. I mean, you're talking about a pretty good follicle brew.
That's
potentially.
yeah.
You want to put hair in the coffee.
Maybe no coffee in the coffee. I think
really?
hot cup of hair.
Just pack that cup full of hair.
Hot cup of hair. That is appealing to me because, again, you're kind of uprooting traditions, which I find disgusting. This whole idea of climate change or global warming, whatever they call it. That the idea that we're beholden to those sort of things when you have kids being drained of their blood for their adrenaline.
And actually, it's funny you mentioned that because
I don't think it's funny.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I mentioned it. Yeah, go ahead. All right.
Yeah.
It's factual that you meant. It's very serious that you mentioned that because we're actually we are in the works of a partnership with the White Savior Project as sort of a make good for the fact that a number of our brands, Morning Laughter, Sunrise Smile, and the third one, Autumn Sensuality, all do contain adrenochrome.
Really?
And so we did not love that when we found that out. That was news to us.
What is the adrenochrome harvested from, I guess would be my question.
Well, there's a lot of the factories do employ children. I love that you're a right to act actor because we're
are they
right
falling into the machinery? What's happening?
They're almost certainly bleeding in that factory.
Okay.
So it's sort of it's an unavoidable side effect.
If it's unavoidable, I mean that's one thing. So
sure.
I mean, look, if the check is where it needs to be, we can definitely talk about kind of a tie-in to some extent.
Right, because
especially a hair, a cup of hair of the dog is something that comes to hair of the goat.
I love that.
Yeah, something like that.
People have been smoking cheeses and meats for years, and I think
I used to smoke 20 cheeses a day before I really got into my own health. I used to smoke a packet of craft singles every day.
You can barely tell.
Well, I've recovered since then, and again, there is a lot of adrenochrome that goes into this body to make sure the longevity is there for the hero.
I mean, we want to save the children from the trafficking rings and such, from the liberal cabal. Yeah. But when it comes to a factory that may have being employed children, and there might be children's blood getting into some of the product, that's just free energy. Yeah. And I mean, what are we going to do? Unionize the factory so the children don't have to work there?
No, it'd be better not. I mean, they'll keep harping on these breaks. They want to call someone. They want to go eat a sandwich.
Right.
If you're unionizing anywhere, the requests become so ridiculous. When you have a mission as important as saving children or making a movie about it, the last thing you need are these people who are kind of poisoning the well, sort of suggesting that they need 15 minutes because their arm's separated from their shoulder. You know, I could go on and on. I've heard them all.
I know. It's, people whose arms separate from their shoulder always ask for a 15.
Oh, yeah, no, always, constantly.
Yeah.
Or healthcare. You know, again, I mean,
Right.
quote-unquote healthcare.
I realized, Grimm, that I hadn't asked you early on about your hobby, which is the paint by numbers.
Yes.
What got you into that?
You know, it's structure. You know, I think my big complaint with art or anything has always been the erratic nature.
The self-expression component.
Yeah, it's not as good. Whenever someone says to me, "What do you see?" I get furious.
Right.
Get
not okay.
It is not okay. It is an act of terrorism because why don't you tell me what it is?
Yeah.
But the paint by numbers is just a great way to mildly express yourself, but by knowing where you're headed.
Well, that's what your whole career is about. Your movie's that way
Yeah,
too.
that's very
your
true.
movie's not
I've never thought of that.
open
That's
to
very-
interpretation. You walk
No.
out and you know exactly what you were
It
just.
is very clear, and if you don't get it, you know, look out.
Right.
I will be furious.
I love that you put the moral in text at the end of the credits.
Well, it's funny. It's
That
funny you
helps me
even.
a
It's
lot.
funny you even mentioned that because I was suggesting that we just put the moral throughout the film, sort of like a
Spoken
ghost
aloud.
print. Yeah,
Oh,
but they tell me that
like
people
a watermark.
exactly
Oh,
like a
that's
watermark.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
but people
Yeah.
will maybe not stick around if
Right,
they
they'll
know
walk
that.
out. Yeah.
But you do want to be explicit, which is why we always end with the moral and the bloopers. The bloopers, people like to see.
love that over the credits.
People love to see that. You know, when a grip is sort of taking forever to light, and you take a pipe to them.
Yeah.
What I love is that you guys disrupted the blooper reel by sort of combining it in its own way with an in memoriam. Because you're both laughing and you're celebrating the life of that grip.
I wouldn't even go as far as celebrating. There is a legal component to this,
Okay.
and again,
Are you
I know
saying
you.
the grip is no longer with us? Is that what you're saying?
Multiple
Multiple
grips are
didn't make it through the project.
No.
Just like your gardeners.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
It's
and
actually
again,
when you were
some-
talking about the gardeners, that was really resonating with me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad. I love that. You know, I think a lot of people they talk about, you know, we're talking about helping the kids, and a lot of times someone will say when a child reaches out a hand for help, someone should be there to take that hand. But at BurnBrew, we really feel like it's inappropriate for an adult to grab a child's
disgusting.
hand.
Absolutely,
It's not
yeah.
okay.
Disgusting.
That's what Barack
And we
Obama's
instead
doing.
suggest
Yeah.
that the invisible hand of the market is there to grab that child's
Wow.
hand and lift them up. Or
I'm
pull them
a
out of the
little
machine.
confused, but
Sure.
I definitely like the seeds of what you're
I
saying.
think that would
as
look
far
great
as-
on like a bumper sticker. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, again, I'm not fully absorbing what he's saying,
Right.
but my mind is so hyper focused on my mission and what I do sometimes that if someone talks that long, I kind of don't know what's happening anymore.
It's like the
It's-
motto you were saying at the
yeah,
beginning.
it's-
It goes
it's-
on until someone stops
That's
you.
actually what I was saying.
I'm
is
getting a little
part of-
lightheaded.
it's
If I could
part
get
of
a
the
warm
motto, it's
rag or
just
something.
deeper.
Sorry, what'd you say?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Please,
No,
please,
it's just-
please.
So Grimm just has a hard time listening to anybody else for longer than a few seconds. Is that what it is?
Well, about stuff that's off topic,
I see.
which is stuff that isn't to do with what I'm trying to do.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes
which is
sense.
why Bill and I get along so well. I mean, we're just
Right.
talking
You're
about
essentially
me and the mission. You,
you
know?
and the mission. You're essentially the same person at this point. You share blood. You share a project.
We share everything.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's you remember in Men in Black when the bug is wearing the skin suit of the man. That's how you and Bill seem to me. You're overlapped. It's almost
very
it's a
bizarre
super specific
reference. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. I've not seen a movie that's been made by a studio.
That's amazing.
Since I made Baby
okay.
Cop, which was my last studio film, which again just kind of got my name out there. What that project taught me is that a lot of if you're trying to use a baby on set, they're just
they're
like
the
these.
worst.
Yeah, they're.
How many babies did you go through on Baby Cop?
Well, we pulled a Lassie. You do 8 or 9, but a lot of that was because of the waterfall stuff.